All right, this video we're going to look at simple interest and problems involved that deal with simple interest. All right, so calculating simple interest. How do we calculate the simple interest? Well, simple interest is the interest is equal to principal times rate times time. Okay, and this is how you'll see the formula. This up here is just the formula written out in words, but it's I equals PRT, where I is the interest, P is the principal, R is the rate, the interest rate, and T is the time. Now, let's make a note here. The rate R, you have to express that as a decimal. So when they give you the interest rate, you need to convert it to a decimal. And remember, to convert a percentage to a decimal, you just move the decimal 2 places to the left. And then T will be represented in years. Okay, T is in years. All right, and P, that's the amount, that's the principal, that's the amount that you put in a savings account or the amount that you borrow. Okay, that's your principal. So let's take a look at example 1. It says you deposit $2,000 in a savings account at Hometown Bank, which has, should just be one has, which has a rate of 6%. Find the interest at the end of the first year. All right, so we know we're going to use I equals PRT. They're asking us to find the interest. So in this problem, P is equal to 2,000. That's the amount that we deposit. R, well, that's 6%. Now remember, we got to write that as a decimal, so that's 0.06. And then it says find the interest at the end of the first year. So in this problem, T is equal to 1. So now all we do is we take these values here and plug them into this formula. And so that's going to give me interest is equal to the principal, which is 2,000, times the rate, times the time. All right? And that is going to give me $120. All right? And this would be our answer. All right, so let's look at this one, example 2. All right, so for example 2, it says a student took out a simple interest loan for $1,800 for 2 years at a rate of 8% to purchase a used car. What is the interest on the loan? And then it says find the interest on the loan after 125 days. So this is 2 problems. Okay, this is 2 problems. So the first thing we want to do is we want to know what is the interest on the loan, and that is for the 2 years. Okay, and then they come back and say, okay, now find the interest on the loan after 125 days. Okay, so let's work the first part. So for part A, that'll be the part with the 2 years. And let's just do that in red since I have it underlined in red. All right, so we've got I equals PRT. And we know that P is equal to 1,800. All right, and R, that's 8%, so that's 0.08. And T, well, that's 2 years, so that's 2. And so our answer would be what? we plug all this into the formula. So that's going to be 1,800 times 0.08 times 2. And so we get the interest is, see, what is that? $288. And, you know, I know on the first one we didn't put the 0.00. You can or not. It don't really matter. All right, so that was part A. Now let's look at part B. All right, so same thing. We've got interest is equal to principal times rate times time. And in this problem, the principal, well, same thing, 1,800. We got our interest rate, R, is 0.08. All right. Now, this 125 days. Well, remember that T has to be in terms of years. All right. So we've got T is equal to, all right, so we've got 125 days. And how many days are in a year? 365. So this is how you would have to represent T as 125 over 365. Now, let's look at this. Sometimes, and you know, the banks have done this in the past, where they would write T as 125 over 360. Now, let me move that over a little bit. 125 over 360. All right, so let's look at the difference. So we've got 125 divided by 360, and that is 0.347, and then 2222. I'm just going to round it to 3 decimal places for the sake of this video. And then 125 over, let me see, hang on. No, I'm sorry. That 347.347. That's 125 over 360. I'm sorry about that. 125 divided by 365, that is 0.342. Rounded to 3 decimal places. So I'm going to work this both ways. Now, if the problem doesn't say, if it gives you the time in days and the problem doesn't say anything about what to use for how many days in a year, use 365. Sometimes the problem will come out and say use 360 days in a year. Sometimes it'll come out and say use 365 days for a year. And then if it doesn't say anything, just use 365, okay? Unless your teacher tells you differently, all right? But the difference here, let's look at this. I equals, now let's plug all this in, the P, the R, and the T. Now remember, we're using this, we're not using this one, okay? We're using the 365 days. So this would be 1,800 times 0.08 times 125 over 365. And let's see what that gives us. 1,800 times 0.08 times 125 divided by 365. And that is going to be $49.32. That's rounding it, okay? Rounding it to 2 decimal places. All right, and that would be the answer, okay? But let's see how the 365 and the 360 compare. Now, I wonder why the banks like to use the 360 instead of the 365. Well, you can see that we're multiplying all these three together. Well, when I multiply these, if I replace this with this right here, you can see that number's a little bit larger, so the interest is more. Okay? Probably why the banks want to use the 360. And so that's 1,800 times 0.08 times, let's see, 125 over 360. All right. And I mean, no, it's not going to make a whole lot of difference here because the numbers are kind of small. But, I mean, it'll make a little bit of difference. And that's what? And that comes out to exactly $50. So, you know, like I said, it's not a whole lot more. But, but you know, that's the idea behind it. All right. So, like I said, this right here, this 4932, that's the answer. That's the correct answer because it did not specify the number of days. If it doesn't, use 365. Okay. All right. So what about this one? Future value. All right. So it says principal plus interest, and that's all it is. So A is equal to P plus I, which equals P plus PRT, which equals P times 1 plus RT. A is the future value of the loan. The principal borrowed now, that's P, and that's also known as the loan's present value. All right, so what they're doing here is up here in this problem here, what we did here, we calculated the interest. Okay, we calculated the interest. That's the interest on the money you borrowed, on this money here. So what we're doing down here with this future value is instead of just calculating the interest, they want to know, okay, you borrowed some money. What's the total amount that you're going to get paid back or that you have to pay back? What's that total amount? Okay. Well, if you borrow some money, okay, so let's say you borrow P dollars, okay, that's going to get interest on it, and you're going to add interest to that money, okay? And so the amount you borrowed, which is this P here, plus the interest, that's the total amount of money that you're going to pay back. Well, we know that this is the same thing, P plus I. Well, what's I? I is PRT, principal times rate times time. And then if you come up here and you can see it has a common factor of P, if we factor that P out, that leaves us with P times 1 plus RT. And that's where this formula comes from. So that's your future value. That's the principal plus the interest. And so that formula is P times 1 plus RT. So, you know, I mean, it's a formula. Yeah, you can memorize it, but if you don't memorize it, I mean, right here, this is how you can get it. Okay? All right, so let's look at example 3. It says a loan of $1,060 has been made at 6.5% for 3 months. Find the loan's future value. All right, so for this problem, we've got the future value is P times 1 plus RT. That's our formula. See, that's from right here. Okay. All right, so P, which is our principal, that is $1,060. R, that's 6.5%, so that's 0.065. And then T, that's the time in years, Well, it says for 3 months, right? Well, so that's going to be 3 over, and how many months are in a year? That's 12. Okay? So remember, t has to be expressed in years. And so now we just take this and plug it into our formula. So we get A is equal to 1060 times 1 plus R, what's going on? 0.065 times 3 over 12. And then we punch that into our calculator. And let's see, that is going to give us $1,077.23. Okay, so all this is just like calculating the interest and adding it to the principal. That's all that is. All right, so I hope this is making sense. So let's look at this next problem. All right, so it says, suppose you spend $4 each day, 5 days per week on gourmet coffee. How much do you spend on this item in a year? And then part B, if you invested your yearly spending on gourmet coffee in a savings account with a rate of 5%, how much would you have after 1 year? All right, so for part A, let's find out how much we spend. All right, so we want to know how much we spend in a year. Now, you might think, well, I can just take the $4, multiply it by 365, and that'll tell me how much I spend in a year. Well, but that's not true, because we're only doing it 5 days per week. We're not doing it 7 days per week. All right. So first we need to see how much we spend a week, and then we can convert that to years. So I spend $4 per day, right? And that's times 5 days per week. And you can see here that the days cancel, and that is going to leave me with $20 per week. Okay. All right, so $4 per day times 5 days per week. And the days cancel. 4 times 5 is 20. And so that's $20 per week. So now I need to take this value, the $20 per week, and turn that into years. So let's do that. Let's do that in do it in a little bit different color. So I've got $20 per week. Okay. And I want to take that to years. Okay. So that's times, and there's 52 weeks per year. And so the weeks cancel, and that leaves me with $1,040 per year. And so this is the answer to part A. All right, so now for part B, it says, if you invested your yearly spending on gourmet coffee in a savings account with a rate of 5%, how much would you have after 1 year? All right, so they want to know how much will we have total at the end of that year. So they're wanting the principal, the amount we put in the savings account, plus the interest added together. So that's that future value formula that we just looked at. And so we have A is equal to P times 1 plus RT, where, let's see, P, well, see, we had to calculate P there. That's the 1,040. That's 1,040. R, well, that's, let's see, what is that? That's at 5%, so that's 0.05. And then T after the 1 year, so T is 1. Remember, T always has to be in terms of years. And so now we plug all of this into our formula. So A is equal to 1,040 times 1 plus R, which is 0.05, times T, which is 1. And so we get A is equal to $1,092. And that's your answer. So it looks like you'd make about what, you make $52 in a year's time. All right, let's look at example 5. So it says you borrowed $2,500 from a friend and promised to pay back $2,655 in 6 months. What simple interest rate will you pay? Okay. All right. So there's a little bit going on here. We've got the $2,500 that we borrowed. Okay. We borrowed that. And the total that we're going to pay back is $2,655. All right. So I'm going to use A equals P times 1 plus RT. So look at this. This is the amount that I borrowed. That's my principal. This is the total that I'm paying back. That's A, your future value. Okay. And then what do I need? Well, let's see. It gives me the time, right? 6 months. So it tells me what T is. So let's go ahead and write that down. T, that's 6 months. So that's 6 over 12, which equals 1/2 or 0.5, right? And it wants to know what simple interest rate will you pay. So I want to know what is R. I've got to figure out what R is. So let's plug in everything. Let's plug in A, P, and T, and then we solve for R. So that's going to give me the 2,655 equals, and then that's going to be 2,500 times 1 plus R, which that's what we're looking for, times T, which is 0.5. Okay. And now we just solve for R. So you can see here, I can divide both sides by 2,500. All right. And so that is going to give me, I don't know, let's see what 2655 is. 2655 divided by 2,500, that is 1.062 equals, and see, it's gone right here, so that's just 1 plus 0.5 R. Okay. And then we will subtract 1 to both sides. And so that's going to give me 0.062 equals 0.5 R. And then I will divide both sides by 0.5. And so that is going to give me R equals 0.062 divided by 0.5. That gives me 0.124. Okay. So we have R is equal to 12.4%. Okay? And so that's the interest rate. All I did is I took this and converted it back to a percentage. All right? So, that's one way that you can kind of figure out, hey, am I paying a pretty high interest rate if I'm paying him back this much money? Well, yeah, that's a pretty high interest rate there, isn't it? 12.4%. All right. So let's look at this next example, and I think it's the last one. All right. So it says you plan to save $2,000, okay, for a trip to Europe in 2 years. You decide to purchase a certificate of deposit, a CD, from your bank that pays a simple interest rate of 4%. How much must you put in this CD now in order to have the $2,000 in 2 years? All right, so let's think about this. So for this problem, they're wanting to know, what do I have to put in the CD? What do I have to put in there now, okay, to have this much in 2 years? So the 2,000, that's what? That's my future value. That's what I want in 2 years. So we're going to use this formula, A equals P times 1 plus RT, because see, I know A, okay, A is 2,000. R, well, that's 4%, 0.04. And T, that is in 2 years. So T is 2. So what we're doing now in this problem is we're finding the present value. How much do I have to put in there now to have this amount in the future? All right. So let's just plug this in. And so that's going to be what? 2,000 equals P. We don't know that. That's what we're looking for. Our present value, times 1 plus R, which is 0.04, times T, which is 2. And so this is 2,000 equals, and then let's just go ahead and punch all that into our calculator. 1 plus 0.04 times 2 is 1.08, so that's 1.08 times P. And so then we can divide both sides by 1.08. And so that is going to give us P is equal to, so 2,000 divided by 1.08, that is going to be $1,851.85. And so that is your answer. Okay. Now that right there was to look for the present value. Now, if in some books, what they do is they actually give you a formula for present value. Let me close that. They give you a formula for present value. All right. So all they do is they take A equals P times 1 plus RT, and then all we're doing is dividing both sides by 1 plus RT. And so we get the present value. Well, those cancel, so the present value is A over 1 plus RT. So you may see this formula in some books. That's where it comes from. That's the present value. All right. And we'll actually see a formula like this when we do compound interest. Okay. So I hope this video helped. Check out my other videos. Give me a like, share, and subscribe. And thanks for watching.